Hello everyone, BC here. Hope you're experiencing a wonderful day in this beautiful, warm Southern California. I can't talk with this, so thanks to AM for giving me this pretty cool thing. Yeah, says 5.0 Felix. Hello, Jaren. Okay, Misa, good seeing you. Okay, I gotta take this off. This is too much now. I'll go back to my normal BC self. Here we go. Yes, now it's like BC again. K24 Turbo, that's a really nice thing. That's why I have my wagon right there. But speaking of turbos, you guys have provided me the perfect segue to what I want to talk about today, which is this. What is this large device in my hand? What is this exactly? This is a Turbonetics Godzilla blow-off valve, and it has a very important function. Thank you so much, Pangatonis. Good seeing you. Yes, Godzilla. This is a Godzilla blow-off valve, as our good friend Falcon Lover, or AKA Zach, is talking about. I have this on the blue Porsche, blue IROC. I have it on the Odyssey minivan. I have it on the black center seat. I have it on the Wagovan, the wagon. I have it on quite a few cars, which is pretty cool. I have it on this car right behind me. It's pretty cool. So the purpose of this device is very critical. So imagine when you are boosting your vehicle and you have all this pressure going into your induction via the turbo and it's doing great stuff. Building boost and you let off the throttle, because that's what you do. You go fast, you let off. The air is now trapped between your turbo and your throttle body. It has to go somewhere. So it does one or two things. Forces its way through the throttle body, which is a no-go, right? Or it backs through the turbo, which causes stalling of your blades. At best, worst case, it can break your impeller blades, it can destroy your shaft, it can cause a significant amount of what we know as this weird barking that happens in turbos, like surge. But either way, it's bad news for the turbocharging system. So the blow-off valve has this port right there that senses vacuum when you close the throttle, and it opens this pop-up valve. This valve right here, which is usually sealed, pops open like that. And in this case, with this lovely sound and aperture and shape, it has this choo, choo, very nice sound, right? So this is more than a device that makes cool sounds. It's more than a pretty large device that looks to cool your engine bay. It actually helps keep your turbo system safe. Mafia is asking, are you using a 5-speed or 6-speed transmission in the center seat Porsche and any issues holding power with it? So I use a 5-speed because guess what? That has a 5-speed, the black one has a 5-speed, the red one has a 5-speed. I noticed that in the same configuration, the 5-speeds seem to be a little bit more robust. So that's what I'm using in those applications indeed. So thank you so much. How long did it take to build Electric 935? Right here, which is next to me. Started in March, debuted it in November, and it's a living, breathing organism, meaning that we're constantly evolving it and trying and experimenting with it. So it's still getting updates, but from inception or starting to build it to completion to unveil was from March last year to November. Do blow valves have spring rates? Yes, they do. Inside this assembly, so you see this valve, this is literally a valve that seals and pops open, right? And what I'm going against, is you see that right there? What I'm going against is actually a spring. And you can change the spring rates in here, which is very important because you have some engines like V8s or like this Porsche behind me that has very, very low vacuum because it has big camshafts, to like bone stock Hondas, which pull up to 20 inches of mercury, right? So that's pretty crazy. It's pretty large vacuum. And not all blow valve springs are set up the same. Now, some companies like TurboSmart allow you to open up and change the springs inside. In this case, Turbonetics helped us out by having this adjustable assembly that you can loosen up and push down increased spring rates. So when you have high vacuum situations, you have the ability to adjust accordingly, or lower, up to you. So yes, you can. Still waiting to see a Honda Fit project from you. All-wheel drive maybe. Concept Keenan? That's my fault. It's my fault because we built not one, but 2 fits for American Honda using the GK body style. I think to today we're the most powerful fit that's ever been built. It made 400 horsepower to the wheels using the new GK body. We did a mild one, which is a track monster with just modifications to suspension, induction, exhaust, and wheels and interior. And then we did a full all-out caged, gutted blue one, normal BC fashion. What platforms do you suggest for racing while in college? Ooh, it depends on the type of racing you're doing. Are you doing drag racing, road racing, autocrossing, drifting? Is drifting considered racing? Okay, drifting. Let me know and I can point you in the right direction. The Honda world misses you. They should not miss me, the properties, because I never left. There's a Honda right behind me. And Duran's working on a Honda. And there's a Honda outside. And a Honda CRX here. And a CRZ there. And a EF EE there. And a Odyssey. I haven't left. Maybe you weren't paying attention. What we suggest for road racing? An S2000. Honestly, those are pretty good road race cars. And if your budget allows you, probably a Cayman. That's a good entry-level vehicle to really have some fun with, you know? In the end, what's the better engine, K24 or K20? So I like the torque of the larger K24. I just do. So since torque is twisting power, and that twisting power allows the opportunity to accelerate, and the name of the game for me is acceleration, I prefer K24s. Now, there are certain K24s that may come in the Element or may also come in the CRV that don't have the best flowing heads or don't have the best assemblies for power based upon VTEC, but having a full TSX K24 or merging a K20A head from the earlier SIs are pretty awesome, right? And combining that with a K24 bottom end, it's pretty freaking good, you know? On a B18, what sort of modifications could you do to maximize power while keeping the engine smog legal? Well, it depends. You have two options. On the natural aspirated route is a standard intake header exhaust. There are some headers that are for the B18 that are legal, carb legal, and DC makes them. There are exhaust systems that are cat back that allow for that as well. There are intakes by AEM that are ideal as well. And then you can also, of course, upgrade to some pure oil to give you a little bit more power and reliability as well. Now, there are also turbo kits that exist that allow you to do something similar where it passes all emissions. It can give you a nice bump in power. Have you had any experience with carbon fiber wheels? Asks Brad Nace's Racing. Let's find out. Pardon me for a moment, guys. I'm gonna answer Brad Nace's question real quick. So Brad Nace, you asked me a question. Do I have experience? Look at this. This is a pure, lightweight carbon fiber wheel, and not a carbon fiber inlay or a carbon fiber covered center drum or an aluminum wheel wrapped in carbon fiber. That is a pure carbon fiber wheel made by Carbon Revolution, all the way in Australia. And these guys, they are the factory OEM supplier for Ford with the Ford GT. And they do a little bit with our friends from Ferrari as well. So the answer is yes, I do. And this came off the Cayman that we're working on now. We also have it on the red center seat. And a box center, you know, the Boxman as well. And it's a pretty awesome set of wheels. As a matter of fact, me switching over from a standard aluminum wheel to this not only gave me better rigidity and strength, it also allowed me to have performance on the track that was equivalent to me adding another 40. Binge watching, says Gilly WHC, Gills, or Gillis, WHC. Uh-oh. What is going on? What the heck? That's the visitor. Guys, I'm telling you, you never know what you're going to see. So right behind me is the Puro mascot. I think that's dripping. How crucial does a catch can take place in a turbo application? It's quite crucial to S2 Boost, who we saw recently, because something very interesting happens. With most factory PVC valves, and these are cars that typically are naturally aspirated, so they have limited PVCs. The PVC setups, or the little ports on the valve cover, are there to create a vacuum situation so the pistons in the block can work against a vacuum and create more power. So when you pull that vacuum, it's very nice for an NA setup. When you go boosted, you do tend to get some blow-by, and that blow-by now goes into the crankcase, overwhelms the PVC, and creates one of two things. An opportunity where it's not very advantageous for the engine, or it starts pushing your dipstick out just from blow-by. So what do most people do? They create a catch can opportunity where they have either advantages using the factory ports or closing the factory ports off and going with a larger AN setups, like you know Fabian, what he did in his car. And what that does, it now allows the breathability in the crankcase to occur, where the gases that go in the crankcase that are typically as a result of blow-by from pushing air into the pistons or past the piston rings, now have an opportunity to evacuate and not push up your dipstick. You know what happens when you push up the dipstick? A lot of oil starts splashing around your engine base. It's not very nice, you know? Libigus, where can I get the shirt? You know, I'm gonna make this available. Benziga Designs is who helped with this, and I can just send me a DM here, and I still can get some to you, no problem. Just let me know what size, and I'll make something happen. SBS airbag for safety on the steering wheel and passenger, are those controlled by the ECU? It has its own ECU system. So most manufacturers tend to have their own supplemental restraint ECM, engine control, or control module, I should say. The factory ECU does not have much control for that. What is better, turbo or supercharger? Mr. Polo, that is the question of the century. They both have their merits. They both have their pros, definitely. They both have their cons. So let's talk about some pros and cons of supercharger versus turbocharger. Now, let's use that S2000 behind me as a great example. So you have an S2000 with an FR layout. Front engine, rear wheel drive. There's a purple one right there, white one outside, and this red one. Red one is supercharged. That one's turbocharged. The one outside is turbocharged. Now, this turbocharger guy has a lot of advantages. He has this opportunity where he has a setup that feels like a big natural aspirated setup. It does not feel boosted at all. It just feels like a crazy big car. And why does it not feel really boosted? Because the supercharger is directly cogged to the crankshaft, so it has absolutely, virtually no lag. So right from the go, it has boost. It feels amazing, absolutely fantastic, right? And guess what? Because it's supercharged, the crankcase or the crankshaft is turning the impeller wheel through a series of belts and all that fun stuff and pushes air into the engine. There's no need to bring exhaust heat up to the intake area. You can use a factory exhaust manifold, which he does, or a header. It's very, very straightforward, very simple. Heat management is not a challenge whatsoever. Now, those are some of the advantages. Now, on the turbocharger advantage, what exists there? Well, you have the capability of turning up the boost and getting all different types of power levels. While the supercharger is in natural state, there are little clever ways of things you can do, but in its natural state, the supercharger is directly cogged, so if you're getting a 16 PSI setup, it is a linear 0 to 16 PSI throughout your boost range. So you have that power air in the curve there, so it feels like a natural aspirated car. The turbocharger car, if you want to do 16 PSI, based upon the sizing and the setup, you can have 16 PSI as soon as 3,500 RPMs or as soon as 4,000 RPMs, all the way to the 8,000, 9,000 RPM range. So what happens there on your power curve? You have this huge air in the curve that would trump a supercharger setup because you just have this wide torque curve. Now, some of the challenges, however, on the supercharger is that being one, you don't have that capability, but also with superchargers, it takes energy to make energy. What do I mean by that? It takes power to turn the supercharger wheel. Some superchargers consume as much as 80 wheel horsepower to turn it. Yes, as much as 80 wheels. So a 400 setup could be 480 horsepower, but 80 is being consumed by turning that impeller wheel that pushes air in the engine. While turbocharging, you tend to use what? Exhaust gases through heat or flow, or to some extent radiation to turn a turbine, which is cogged to the induction wheel or the compressor wheel, and then that pushes air, so you're almost taking wasted energy to take advantage of it. Now the challenge, however, with turbocharging, especially S2000, is heat management. You now have all this heat near the AC lines and near the battery, and you have to kind of manage that heat, and then limitations, and then you have all this complexity in terms of piping and so on and so forth. So it can be a challenge. As a matter of fact, best case scenario, you can melt some things and cause a challenge. Worst case scenario, yeah, S2000 can catch on fire, and it has happened. If people don't relocate their battery to the trunk and then move their AC lines around and the coolant lines, and sometimes do clever things with the VTEC solenoid, and so on and so forth. So they both have the pros and cons. So net, a lot of street guys love supercharged applications or people who are doing a lot of road racing because it's just immediate, it's like that. But with turbocharging and the flexibility of being able to have different power levels for each gear, the fact that you can have this wide torque curve, the fact that you can have a lot of fun and up the boost and get more power in a modular fashion, it's a big, big win. So I know I talked a lot about this, but I'm trying to get as much information to you as possible. Dual full pumps or one bigger pump for turbo applications? Powered by Hondas? That's an excellent question. Man, if I had a prize, I would give it to you right now. That's a great question. My rule of thumb, my thought process, my experience has been one large pump. Whether it is on this beautiful 935 right here in front of me, or that one right there that has a single pump. Even on my 1,000 horsepower Odyssey, I have a single pump. Now, most people say, oh, dual pump hanger, 3 pump hangers. You know the challenge with that? When one pump goes out, you don't know until it's too late. So if you have a 3 pump system and one of your pumps just takes flight in terms of stop working, you won't find out until you're in open loop and full boost, the expire engine. Now, if you had infinity, it'll be less of a chance. You can have warnings to let you know what's going on. But yeah, you can expire an engine very quickly. And the cost is not there. So I use, on my applications, a single nice And you guys have heard a lot of my cars, the pump's not that loud, but I use a Magna Fuel pump, Magna Fuel 750, and I've made 4 figures on E85 with Magna Fuel 750 pump, and it's awesome. And the pump is like $450, it's cost effective. So think about a triple pump. If you find pumps for, let's say some of the cool AEM pumps, or Walbro pumps for like $110, $120, whatever the case may be. By the time you get 3 pumps and get the hanger system and all that stuff, geez, you're spending as much as a nice Magna Fuel pump, right? If your power capability allows you to make not as crazy power, you can get away with what I have in this, a single AEM pump. Is there larger 340 LPH on some of the NSXs and S2000s over here. And we have the even larger black inline pump that looks like it kind of looks like a Wash 044, but much better. That's what I have on this Porsche, and it's a direct replacement. That's what I have on the center seat right there. But if you're trying to make big power north of 500 wheel, go with Magna Fuel. Those are pretty good. I hope that helps. Oh, I'm missing some good questions here. Okay, let's see. Why did you go with a K24Z head and not a K24A head, says Darren. Great question, because efficiency. You know what? In the newer K series, Honda's done a great job at giving us this blessing. This blessing that many of our peers and many of my family members see as a curse. And what is that blessing that was bestowed upon us? The fact that with newer catalyst requirements, with newer emission requirements, you have to light up the catalyst very nicely, get it really hot, so you can do a good job in creating, or not creating, damaging SOXs, or oxides of sulfur, or oxides of nitrogen, NOXs. So what do? They have this integrated port where you can just bam both the exhaust manifold or catalyst right at the head and get it nice and hot to give us cleaner air. Now what does it do for guys like us who love boost? Godsend. It's like the most perfect log manifold we can ever imagine, and allows us to spool big turbos very quickly. Yes, I can spool a 72mm turbo as quickly as I would spool a TT34 with a tubular manifold. So I use the K24Z7 as a way to efficiently turbocharge a car, taking advantage of what Honda gave us. Bear in mind the Z7 head compared to K24A head, the Z7 has bigger intake ports, bigger valves on the intake, and flows better. Yes, it may have VTEC on the intake alone, but that's not a detriment. Literally, you can make 400 wheel on a stock K24Z7, and we've seen north of 700 easily, eyes closed, with a Z7 when you build it. So that being said, that's the reason why. An efficient setup, very compact, no need to have a long tubular manifold sidewinder that introduces heat in the engine bay, that can fracture, and the lengths are not equal, and it's just a big mess, and it's just nice and clean. So if you haven't seen it, go look up some pictures of Bisimoto wagon, and you'll see how clean the setup can be with a Z7 setup. So, hey BC, Thunder Payne says, what's the difference between kPa, kilopascal, right? PSI and bar for measuring boost. What's the most accurate way to measure a boost consistently? Well, guess what? Thunder Payne, great question. They are all accurate. They're just different units, right? Kilopascal, a lot of engineers like kilopascal because it's a very nice, simple unit. Using 100 as a very nice number to understand what's going on. So I'm trying my best to think of ways to make it very simple so I don't lose guys here, because I'm trying to break down science to be easy for everyone to understand. So let's talk about 100 being a unit that they use. So at atmospheric pressure, where right now we're sitting, which by the way is 14.7 pounds per square inch of PSI, that's where our lungs ingest, that's the pressure that's against our skin. We are at atmospheric pressure, okay? This atmospheric pressure is known as 100 kilopascals. So when you're at atmosphere, it's 100, which is the same as 1 bar, which is the same as 1 atmosphere, but 100 kilopascal, which is 14.7 psi. So they're all accurate, all different numbers. When I'm at 2 bar or 2 atmosphere, now, and I'm talking about, these are not gauge numbers, but absolute numbers. When I'm at 2 bar or 2 atmosphere, I'm now at 14.7 pounds of boost, or pounds per square inch of boost. Also 200 kilopascals. So you know that 100? I'll multiply your atmosphere now, and now it is 100 plus, which is 200 psi. Guess what 3 bar is? 300 psi, or 3 atmosphere, and so on and so forth, which goes as far as 30 or so, or 29.7. 30 psi. So that being said, it depends on what you're comfortable with. For most cars that come here that other tuners bring in and so on and so forth, it's at PSI. When I do a lot of engineering stuff, it's with kilopascal. And what I see a lot of companies from Japan, and even to some extent a lot of Porsches, like this one behind me, has things in atmospheres or bars, which is just an interchangeable unit of expression. So I hope that helps. And I hope I didn't lose you guys by sharing that. I'm just trying to be as simple as possible. And I used to say it's a 15-year-old rotary mechanic apprentice from Sydney. Very nice. One day I'm going to build crazy cars like you guys. That's fantastic. And I'm telling you should. We need more creativity in the automotive scene. I was just talking to Fabian and Duran earlier on today about this exhaust manifold that's on this S2000. And I'm seeing more and more of these horrible manifolds that can induce boost creep, that people are just copying everyone else instead of thinking out of the box and making things out more efficient and giving the wastegate priority and all that fun stuff. So that being said, I would wish people would be more creative and build really cool stuff. So please don't let go of the dream. Make it happen. You can succeed with it. And I support you 100%, you know? I have a red marking. So guys, I do have to depart. Thank you so much for being part of this show today. We had some great questions and great opportunities. It'll go up on your podcasting now. I'm gonna put it up here on Instagram for you to see what's going on. And next week, I'll be here with even some more exciting information. I really appreciate your interaction, guys, and how much you guys love interacting with me. So stay safe, stay tuned. See you next week. Take care, guys.